What's up, everybody? I hope you all are having a fantastic Sunday afternoon, evening, or morning, whatever day you're watching this. I'm here with Foxcade. Do you go by Foxcade, or you want to go by a different name, or just Foxcade?
I think most people know me by Foxcade, but a lot of people online just short form it to Fox when they're talking to me like personally.
Okay,
So,
Fox. Fox it is.
yeah.
So, Fox. I'm gonna use this a lot. We were BSing a little bit, and we decided on the format of we're gonna start with what's your YouTube story like? Where did you start out from? Being the guy that was nerdy in a room, dark room, on a couch at a big screen TV, and decided that okay, I'm gonna make YouTube videos. So let's start with that because I feel like a lot of YouTubers kind of tell their story, but they don't tell it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Basically to like give the like very short answer, it was just I needed a creative outlet. I just needed something to do, to like just kind of put my stuff out there, and it seemed like the logical thing. I follow a lot of uh YouTubers, and it just kind of was like, why don't I try to do this? Even if I'm not super successful, like just to even get my hands dirty, give it a try. Like I'm in university, so I'm used to writing stuff. So I just started writing scripts and recording very badly and editing very badly at the start because I was still learning even how to do stuff. And
mm-hmm.
going back at some of my like earliest stuff now, I'm like, I leave this up just for prosperity's sake of like almost for me to like look back at how far I've come over like the last year or so. But God, I want to remake them so badly because I'm looking at them. I'm like, why is this in 480? Like this should be in 720 at least. Why is this so badly voiced? Why is there no drop shadows on that? Why is it so blurry? There's a lot of problems that I'm like, this is very amateur work. And I'm sure I'll say that the same thing about myself a year from now about where I'm at this current moment. So it's a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
it's been a work in progress, and that's why I get very jealous of people that their first video is just mind blowing. Like one of my inspirations that actually didn't really get onto the scene until a year ago, around the same time I started, was Super Eye Patch Wolf, and
Okay.
his first video is like already surpasses anything I've done, and it was his like very first video, and it was on
Mm-hmm.
Hunter x Hunter. Why you should watch Hunter x Hunter, and he just released one on Dragon Ball, the impact of Dragon Ball Z, and it's like same stellar work, and I'm constantly in awe of people like him, people like Super Bunny Hop, trying to think of some other ones, but just people that have such a talent at doing YouTube always kind of inspire me to do more. And that's what always keeps me going. Even if I'm not like seeing money from it, I just like I want to do stuff like that and maybe inspire someone else. Like maybe I can inspire someone to do something or play a game they've never tried. So that's like
Yeah.
my general like synopsis.
It's like one of those things where you wanted to do it and then you just started doing it and you just can't stop doing it now, you know?
No, yeah, yeah. It's just I just keep doing it because I love doing it. Sometimes the writing process can be a bit of a pain because I self doubt myself a lot. I deal with a lot of like anxiety because I'm always like, I don't know if this makes sense. I don't know if the flow feels right, and I get very like I get halted on one paragraph when I should be writing more, but I just keep rewriting the same paragraph until I feel it's perfect, and it takes up too much time. But I still love doing it. I love editing. Like that's my honestly my favorite part of doing the whole thing. Even
Mm-hmm.
to a certain point, I like recording. It's been a process learning to get better, but I still enjoy it because it's a work in progress, and I like that.
Yeah, it's like one of those things. I feel like you go through those processes and like by no means I cringe at my earlier stuff. I still cringe at the stuff I put out 2 weeks ago because I'm just
Yeah.
like ooh, because you watch it and you're just like ooh, I could have done that there. I could have done something, and you just kind of beat yourself up. But it's out there and you're like, I'm not gonna touch it now. You know what I mean? Learn from your mistakes and move forward.
Yeah, people I've seen people recommend my stuff and it's usually, hey, check out this guy's stuff. Really take a look at his DMC retrospective. And I'm always like, can you skip to like the most recent one? Don't look at the first one because that's hot garbage. Because it's really bad. But at the same time, I also kind of like that it's as bad as it is because that series in of itself of like what is it now? 5 videos plus the video that should be going on next Saturday will be 6.
Hmm.
It shows my progression as a creative person. It shows my like development of like learning how to edit better, learning how to mix sound better, learning how to just emote for the recording better. Like I
Hmm.
can what's the word? I'm just able to project my voice better. And
Okay.
it's like it's been over the span of like a year and a bit, and you can see like my gradual development of being more natural, learning how to say certain things in a different way, how to phrase words in a more interesting light in terms of like just really getting my point across in a very easy to understand way and not needing to like explain every little detail and go into every minute little thing. I get my general point across that I want to make and then expand on the things that need to be expanded on.
Hmm.
So,
So then, like, let's start with your process then. Like, how do you decide? Because, like, for me, it's just I come in and okay, I'm passionate about talking about this topic. So it's like 3, 4 hours of research, sometimes more, and I'll film the video the next day. But then I come in, just talk about it to a camera, and then it's like 6 hours of editing because it's ridiculous how much you got to do to edit, and you
yeah.
don't you don't think it would, but you like get that little image to go across the screen there, just the way your little OCD mind wanted it. Took a long time.
For me, it's a constant, ongoing disaster is the best way I could phrase it. Because my writing process can sometimes take a few days if you like boil it down. Because I do university and I have another job, so I
Hmm.
get the writing done when I can. So it's just a lot of like picking away at it. Sometimes it can take a while just because of the sheer size of it, or just I'm having difficulty kind of getting my point across in some ways. But usually that's the process in of itself is just getting the writing done. I kind of just choose. Sometimes it's like I want to talk about this game, and then I kind of figure out what I want to talk about. Other times I know exactly what my talking points are, and then it's just basically jotting all of them down and then turning those jots into paragraphs.
Hmm.
Um, uh, to kind of pull the curtain back a little bit, I've already mentioned this on Twitter. The next video that should be up on Saturday will be an hour-long retrospective on Bayonetta. I don't know if it'll be an hour, but it's pushing there.
That's
Because I have about
nuts.
30, I have about 35 minutes, and I still have quite a bit to put in there.
That's
Uh,
nuts.
but after that, there will be a short video that'll be on Monster Hunter World, and that one, I knew the exact topic and what I wanted to do. It's not even a topic; it's more of a style of video, I guess I would say. And
Hmm.
it's a style of video I've done before, but this one I'm gonna do hopefully a bit better because some people didn't get the last one. It's gonna be like a PSA video,
Okay.
but it's gonna be shorter. It's gonna be a little bit more comedic, kind of shit posty type of video. But I knew exactly what I wanted to do even before I started playing Monster Hunter,
Hmm.
and that one was just a I knew the topic right then and there. But there's other times where it's like, hey, I really love Transistor.
Okay.
Maybe that can be just the video in of itself is like why I love this video and why I think more people should play it. And that just kind of turned into a video itself. Or usually it's just I never want to talk about a game I don't love or have a passion about or piece of media. Sometimes I talk about movies and stuff, but it has to be something that I feel passionate about. I'm never going to do a topic that I'm just like I need to make a video for the sake of making a video. Like that feels so unappealing
Forced.
to me. Like that feels so forced. That feels insincere to me. Like
Hmm.
if anybody ever comes to my channel, I want them to feel that I'm being sincere about my work. That's like the first priority in terms of like what I choose a topic on is this something I feel warrants a discussion or me talking about it for 20 minutes to 40 minutes. I was gonna do a video on fighters, Dragon Ball Fighters, because I've really been enjoying that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to kind of start a series of videos talking about fighting game story modes. And I was gonna be like, oh, fighters will be like a great like starting point. And then I played the story mode, and I was like, I don't have a lot to say about this. Like, I just don't. I think it's fine for a story mode. It's a fun little thing. If you're a Dragon Ball fan, there's a lot of fun little interactions. But at the end of the day, I don't have much to really say about it. Like, I'm not vehemently hating it on it like I did with Marvel versus Capcom Infinite, but I also don't love it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just kind of very neutral. I'm like, this wouldn't make a good video because it's not something I'm feeling very strongly about. It's just like, it exists. Oh, it's cool that Gotenks and Nappa talk about going Super Saiyan, or oh, the Ginyu Force were the inspiration for Gohan developing the posing that he does with the Great Saiyaman. Oh, that's kind of neat. That's fun. That's all I'd really have to say though. Like that's all that's really there. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'll do something else. And then I found Monster Hunter, and I was like, oh, I think I have something with this. I think I have something that I could do with this. And then that's just kind of how I pick stuff. I never want to chase trends. I'll do new stuff if I feel passionate about it, but never for the sake of jumping on a bandwagon.
Mm-hmm. So then,
Yeah.
how do you decide? Like, for me, sometimes I'll be like starting to write down stuff for a video, and then I get through it, and I'm just like, I'm not passionate about this. Like I don't have anything more to say. I don't have anything to add to the conversation, so I scrap it. So how do you? I guess how do you then decide that what you truly are passionate about? How do you get over that hump of is this really something worth doing?
I think about it and I say fuck it and I just do it anyway. um, no, it's just it really depends. Sometimes it takes me a while to make a video and then I'll feel like it's become redundant, but I do always feel like I try to bring an interesting perspective or an interesting point, or even just like make a really just strongly worded video. Like
Mm-hmm.
nothing it like even if a point has been talked about before doesn't mean you can't continue the discussion or like develop it further. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm like we don't nobody wants just one review of uh Dragon Ball Fighters. Like that's why we have multiple reviewers. But if you're going to be making it now, a month later after everybody has already put out a review, then you should be making a more interesting, nuanced point because it's been out for a month and you've had time to just state it and think about more interesting points. Like I kind of wish I did a video on uh Death Note, the Death Note Netflix
Oof.
movie, and I felt so bad that it took me so long to get it finished because I was like, a lot of these points have been talked about already. But I just thought about it and I was like, you know what? For some people, this is the first time they're going to be hearing these points. For some
That's true.
people, they might hear the same point they've heard before, but just in a different light that they go, hey, like that's a thing I didn't think about. That's an interesting point that I didn't consider. So as long as you can make a very strongly worded essay, analysis video, review, whatever your creative outlet is,
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be your own take. Like I think that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. It's like the most important thing you can do is that it's your own version of it, your own perfect version of the video that you'd want to do. Because I see a lot of people that kind of try to copy other people, like
Mm-hmm.
other popular trends or other popular ways of making videos. And I don't want to say that's wrong, but the reason why people gravitate towards Ego Raptor and the Super Best Friends and I mentioned before Super Eye Patch Wolf or Super Bunny Hop or Mr. Clemps is another person I really enjoy, or Jim Sterling. Any of these people, none of them have anything alike in terms of how they do their videos, but it's because they are all very genuine about how they do them. Like they're very personable. They're putting their own opinions out there in the way they want to. And they have
Mm-hmm.
inspirations too. Like I've talked to some of them and they have their own inspirations on who influenced their work. And that might seep into their process, but they're never trying to be that person. You're never going to, I've heard this before. You're never going to be better at being someone else.
It's kind of like
Like
the cover band syndrome, you know, like
exactly.
you can
You
practice a
can
song till you're blue in the face, but it's still not going to be anything more than what it is for you.
exactly. That's exactly it. I can try my hardest to try to be like Jim Sterling or Super Bunny Hop, but I'm never going to be as good as them. I don't have the skills they do. So to anybody listening that wants to get into this stuff, the probably the best recommendation I can give you is find what your strength is. Find what you're passionate about first, and then find your unique take or find your unique way of bringing that to the table, because that's what's going to bring people to you. Is like, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not a perfectly done video, people are drawn to passion. Like that's just I feel like that's almost a fact at this point. People are drawn to passion, and then your level of production value or your arguments kind of are a multiplier on that. So
I used to do we have another channel. It was called Nilfinity Productions, and it was more like comic books and movies and stuff. And I'd always get together with these guys, and I tell them passion breeds passion. You know, if you're passionate about it, and that comes through the video, like how me and you are talking about this now, and someone else sees that passion, you know, it helps breed the interest into it. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
people realize, okay, they're not just, you know, they're not just talking into the microphone like this. And oh wow, did you see that I just jumped over that mushroom in Super Mario Odyssey? You know,
yeah,
it's like holy crap, like you know, Super Mario Odyssey looks amazing and you can talk about it. But like, you know, and it's passion, like I said, passion breeds passion, and you need to be passionate about it. But like
yeah,
for me, like now this is what I want to get into with you too, is like you go more like the game analysis route.
yeah,
You know, like level design, character arcs, the story and all that, which I would love to do. But I realized really quickly that I am long-winded, I I ramble on, and I can't get my message across coherently.
yeah,
So, and I'm more of a historical guy. I love the history of video games. I always say, and you know, I've said this in like 14 other videos, but video games are the most documented history we are ever going to get, because you can read a story about how the developer of Chrono Trigger, that's in behind me, like they
yeah,
thought of this for some instance, you know, in the game that I can't think of off the top of my head, but like they thought of this, and then that's how that happened in the game, and then you know, and then you can go in and you can play that game and experience that, and that's what I love about gaming. You know, like I had Blake on, and we talked about console wars and the history of gaming, and that's why it's so interesting
oh,
to me.
Blake Harris.
Yeah, Blake J.
Yeah,
Heresy, amazing
um,
guy,
yeah, I love
cool
that
dude.
book.
Yeah, but like that's me. Like I love the history of gaming. That's why, and like for me, my friends and I just talk. And my friends are gamers. That's another reason for the channel. I needed a you know place to talk.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, and like my friend was just like me and my friends were just talking, and I went on one of my tangents about I think it was Batman Arkham Knight at the time, and he goes, "Why don't you just make a YouTube video?" And I'm like,
Their
"No,
equivalent of shut up. I
yeah,
don't want to hear this.
yeah,
Go
the
tell
equivalent."
someone that cares.
Yeah. I was like, fuck it. Yeah, that's a good idea. And then I realized making YouTube videos are hard.
It is challenging with the whole documentary uh uh most documented thing. I would say that movies are in contention for that title because there's behind the scenes footage. There's unfortunately there's something that drives me up the wall looking into video games is there's not a lot of great behind the scenes footage for a lot of games. That's
Yeah.
kind of why I love doing the Bayonetta one I'm currently working on, is because there's a full hour-long documentary of behind the scenes of Bayonetta, and you get to talk to the director, the character designer, all these different people that worked in it, and the kind of process they went through in making it. But that's such an anomaly in game development. We don't get that enough, unfortunately, and that is somewhat commonplace in movies. So I wish there was more stuff like that. More games I feel need a commentary track of some
Yeah.
kind.
Or
It's a very rare
documentary.
thing, or a documentary. But because I know there's one for like Portal 2 and a couple other games have like a commentary track that you can put on that kind of plays while you're playing. And I would kind of love that in to be in more games, but it's a lot to ask for because it's a much harder process to integrate than it is in movies because the movies are just like the director sits down and watches it and records his thoughts or one of the actors and then it just plays over the movie where the game it has to play at certain times and it's a lot harder to control. I get that, but it would be nice to see that better integrated because you don't realize there's this thing that I've noticed that I feel people don't realize how hard it is to make a game. It
Oh,
is
it's
such an
ridiculous.
involved process, and people it sometimes feel like, oh, Capcom's making a game, and the game's gonna come on the video game fairy's gonna come and drop a game into GameStop and the digital storefront, and then it's gonna be made. Thanks, Capcom. Like, no, there's like hundreds of people sometimes being involved in this process. I would anybody who's interested in game development to any degree, I cannot recommend the book Blood, Sweat, and Pixels by
Oh
Jason
yeah.
Schreier. It is such a great book. It's on Audible. It's read by Ray Chase, who's the voice of Noctis and a few other characters. He
I'm
does
reading through
such
it
a
now.
good job. He does such a good job bringing that book to life. But it goes into like the process that went into making Shovel Knight, Stardew Valley, The Witcher 3. So it goes from like the smallest of indie games where it's a one-person game to like huge games like Destiny that had like 50 people to 100 people on the development staff. And this is the kind of the thesis of the book, but I'm going to steal it. It's a miracle we even have games. Like it is a miracle that any game gets finished because it's
Well,
such you have so
oh,
many
go on.
moving
Sorry.
parts. Yeah, you have
Yeah.
so many moving parts, but yeah.
Well, just to kind of defend my argument though, like games are it's different from a movie because you can sit down and watch a movie and it's the same experience every time.
Yeah.
But like with a video game, you can experience that history, and that's why it's the most documented because you can I don't know go back to Ocarina of Time, and I use this and all Ocarina of Time's 20th anniversary is this year. Ocarina of Time fundamentally changed video games.
Yeah, for better or for worse, yeah.
Yeah, for better. But I mean, like look at it. Look at how the battle system is in Ocarina of Time, and
Well,
that you. Oh, go
we
on.
would not have to sorry to cut you off, but this is a point I've always tried to make with friends. We would likely not have Dark Souls if it wasn't for we wouldn't have Dark Souls as it is if it wasn't for Legend of Zelda, because Legend of Zelda started
Exactly.
the whole strafing, Z targeting thing.
Exactly, because like I was saying, like you can look at the battle system from Ocarina of Time, and you can see its DNA in every 3D action game to date. It's more the most recent one that comes to mind is Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And like I said, that's why that's why I said it's the most documented because you can experience this history. You can go back and be like, okay, look at this, and then you can go forward through it. You can play Pitfall on the Atari and whatever, and you can go play Super Mario Brothers and see the evolution of platformers and all that. And then you can look into the growth of the RPGs in the 90s, which is ridiculous. Like that's so interesting, and I'm just now dipping my toe into it, because like for me, and we'll get into this later, but like my that'll be our next topic. We'll talk about our gaming histories
Yeah.
because like that's something a little different, I think, because I feel like there's the YouTubers that have come out. Well, we'll just get into it now. There's the YouTubers that come out and they were gaming from the time they were kids. And they had every console. Oh, I was the kid that had an SNES, then an N64, and all that. And then there's like people like me, and we got a Sega Genesis for $15 when I was like 7, and it came with Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Shinobi 3, and I got Page Masters and Spider-Man a couple months later, and that was it. And then we got an N64 later on and PS2, but like my gaming history was very limited, so now I get to go back and I get to experience these games, But that's why I think gaming is the best history though, because like you can go back and experience these amazing games and acknowledge the history of it and see the history of it and see this industry grow, which is ridiculous. Because think about this: in the time, movies are what I want to say like 150 years old at this point, or over
Yeah.
100 years.
Yeah, it's The 120 first movies kind of came out 1890s, so yeah, about 130.
Okay, so okay, well, in 40 years, video games have become the biggest entertainment of in the world. You know, they make more money than movies, television, and music combined. That's ridiculous. You know,
It,
so
it's
like,
it's a it's a media that's grown exceedingly fast.
yeah, and you know, like, what is it? I was reading a article now. I question this because like it was all about hardcore gamers and all that, and they said like 50% of the U.S. population plays some form of video games.
Yeah.
I can acknowledge that. I'm not going to acknowledge like 50% of people play on their PS4. You know?
Yeah, some of those are mobile users and some of them are playing on, handhelds, but it's still gaming at the end of the day.
Yeah, but this is why gaming is so amazing though, because you can the history. Like I'm a history buff. That's why I keep saying I just love the history of it, and you can experience this history, and you can fall in love with it. Like for me, I got Chrono Trigger back there. I know more. I know crap tons about Chrono Trigger. I've watched Did You Know Gaming's video. I watch every little scrap of video I can find about it. Have I finished the game yet? No, but I can have it up on my wall because I appreciate what it stands for.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people like that that might not have finished the game but do support it and love it and try to uh represent that love in some way. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at is that it's because it's the interactivity, people
Mm-hmm.
get a lot more attached to that type of media because for a lot of them, it's like they're in this world. They get to experience this world and become really attached to this character or this story, the gameplay. Some people get really attached to even just the world that they're being presented to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that's why it does have that feeling that it's so much more documented because people really get into their games. Like nobody really remembers the first time they watched Aladdin, but some people might have a vivid memory of playing a specific type of game that they love. Like I remember the first time I played Devil May Cry, which is probably one like my favorite series, pretty much bar none.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it. It was the first game I got with my PS2. I was 8 years old. Don't ask me why my dad got me a mature rated game for an 8 year old, but I thank him for it.
Cool dad.
But cool dad, it came with the PS2, the Devil May Cry 1, and the strategy guide with it. But unbeknownst to me, because the PS2 was the first current gen console I had. Before that, it was like an NES and a Game Boy. Like I
Mm-hmm.
leaped like 3 generations of consoles to get to the PS2.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't know it needed a memory card because when I went to my friends to
Oh.
play on the N64, they had it was just a cartridge, and I was used
Mm.
to the cartridges on my Game Boy and on my NES, so I wasn't used to needing a dedicated piece of hardware for a save file. I played friends' PS1s, but I didn't realize that because I was a stupid 8 year old. But so me and my friend one day until I finally got a memory card, played through the entire game in one day. Like we took
Oh.
like a break here and there, but we played through the entire game on one dedicated save file that just never turned off. And that was like a really fun experience because that game's like for an 8 year old, that game's hard as shit. But we just
Okay.
plugged through that game and got to the end, and that was just like such a fun experience, I remember. And I think we got
Mm-hmm.
taken out to go bowling that day, and it was just we were just like so antsy to get back home so we could finish this Devil May Cry game that we got.
Yeah. But like, I mean, okay, let's look at it this way. How many times have you watched a series, or like a television show or a movie, and then you were like, okay, you finished it, but you were interested in it, so you wanted to look into it.
Not really that often, but I think it's also dependent on personal tastes. Because
Yeah.
there are some people that love watching a Marvel movie and kind of want to hear more about like, hey, what did the director do this? Why did they choose to do this? Like there's clearly an interest in that because there's film classes that are about the history of films.
Yeah.
So, but I do think there is a very nugget of truth with the whole games being so documented is just because it's so much more involved in terms of a creative process and in terms of a piece of media,
Experience.
in terms of it, yeah, in terms of an experience, in terms of a piece of media, because it's not a passive. form of media.
Yeah.
It's
I
it's a
also
forcibly interactive media.
Yeah, I also feel like that's why we're never gonna get an amazing video game movie, you know, because you like we got Tomb Raider coming out next month and Ready Player One, but Ready Player One's book, but
Yeah.
I love that book, but I feel like a lot of problems with like the movies in the end is everybody has those vivid memories of playing this game, you know, sitting on that couch with the blanket over them, and then playing this game and there's that strange disconnect, you know what I mean, when you're just sitting there watching this character that you've experienced, you know, not to mention then you have a 16-hour game condensed into a 2-hour long movie.
Yeah, I've made this point in certain videos. Is that one of the strongest reasons that we don't have a good adaptation is because video games, much like books, are paced very different than movies are. Like, other than like things like The Last of Us and a couple other things, there's such a different pacing that makes it hard to adapt to movie without having to make huge changes and cutting out characters, cutting out certain
Exactly.
scenes, certain sequences, because a game has to be paced between having cutscenes and having gameplay. Like it has to be paced between those two things, or else it starts to kind of get
Yeah.
wobbly, where it's like, oh, I was really getting invested in that story. Now I got to go play the game, or I was really getting into that fight. Now we're getting interrupted with cutscenes. So it's such a different process that doesn't naturally transition into a 2 hour movie. Do I think it's possible? Yes, I do. It's just we currently haven't found that missing piece, and I think part of
Mm-hmm.
it is just it's the medias haven't lined up quite just yet. I think there's still people trying to tinker at that problem and solve it because I
Yeah.
think there is potential. It's just we haven't found it yet.
Well, I think the potential lies in like the story heavy video games and all
Yeah,
that. That's where it's gonna have to be. So like your Tomb Raiders, your Uncharted, your Last of Us, you know,
and there's never going
and
to be a Street Fighter live action movie that's going to be any good.
no, no. I don't understand why they went like, hey, but you know what? I will say this: that Double Dragon movie in the '90s, gold,
Yeah.
like, just pure gold. No, but I actually kind of have high hopes for Tomb Raider. I'm actually,
I do. I think it's a movie that's fitting because like as like a weird parallel, it's like, you know, uh Laura Croft inspired Uncharted, and Uncharted's like a super cinematic experience.
oh yeah,
And on the flip side of that whole inspiration is that Laura Croft was kind of inspired by Indiana Jones. So it's like
yeah,
there's no logical reason that you couldn't adapt Laura Croft into a movie in that way. Like it
yeah.
makes so much sense that I'm kind of baffled that it if it wouldn't work.
Well, I don't see how they botched it up the last two times. But then again, they had Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, I think it just was again, it was just a failed attempt. Like same thing with Assassin's Creed. Like Assassin's Creed, the
Oh,
film did not have to be so boring.
that
Like
that
like it was just an example of people were working on the project, didn't know the source material.
hmm
Like maybe Michael Fassbender loved Assassin's Creed. I don't know.
I
Um,
doubt it.
maybe they tinkered around with the script and it didn't work because I know Ubisoft was involved with the script process. I know they were heavily involved in making it, and it might have been just like video game people and movie people trying to work together just didn't mesh properly. I think that's my gut feeling on why it didn't work.
hmm
We'll never 100% know, but it's shocking how boring that movie was.
It's
I don't even think it was
ridiculous.
bad. I think it was just boring.
Well, I mean, that was one of the things that prompted Ubisoft to be like, okay, we're taking a year off. We're taking
Yeah.
a year off.
Yeah, it's weird that their attempt to go into a movie delayed them making games.
Well, yeah, but see, like they announced they were taking the year off before the movie was even out, so they knew
Yeah.
that movie was crap.
Well, I think they also realized that they've kind of people were getting fatigued from the series. I think they got a
Yeah,
lot of reception from people that are like, okay, we don't need a yearly thing. We don't need a yearly Assassin's Creed. You guys can take a break a little bit. Make the next
I
game better. Make the next game really good, and
I would have loved to have been in that meeting when they were just like, "So how's the movie going?" "Oh, it's crap." And then the other guy, "How's that new game going?"
Not great.
It's gonna be something, you know. So when you releasing that new game? Oh,
Yeah.
October.
Yeah,
When you releasing
Ubisoft
the movie?
CEOs. Ubisoft
December.
CEOs sweating.
Ubisoft CEO is just like, okay, guys, we can't keep going on like this.
I will give them credit that Origins was a step in the right direction again. I'll
Oh,
give them that
Origins
because
is like such a step in the right
yeah,
direction.
like that's a weird series that's had a lot of rockiness for how strongly it came out of the gates at first. So
Yeah.
for
Well,
like because
like,
it's one of the first like modern legacy IPs is what I would say in terms of like something that came out like late 2000s
mhm.
that
Well,
like
like
everybody
that's
knows.
that's what it's gonna be interesting to see. You know what I mean? Because like now we're kind of seeing a new Ubisoft now because they're like, holy crap, we gave this game time and it did well. You
Oh, who
know,
would have thunk it?
yeah, and now so then they delayed Far Cry 5 and their unannounced IP, which is probably the let's be honest, it's probably the sequel to Origins, if we're not going
Yeah,
to be,
probably.
or maybe a new Watch Dogs, which
I have fingers crossed that we might see a Prince of Persia, but I doubt it. That
I
series seems to be so like lost in the sands.
I think Disney killed that with the movie.
I don't know because I still think they could bring it back, but I just think they might be just waiting a while. That's the weird thing about game development that I always notice is there's stuff that's like people want, but for some reason the companies get really scared and fidgety about it. Like that's like the DMC Devil May Cry. I want to say is largely why it's taken us so long to get anything related to DMC 5 coming out.
Oh, that's going to be announced this year,
If it isn't, I'm gonna be livid because I've
especially
been
with the
hearing
HD
rumors for so long.
remaster.
Yeah, with the HD
Especially,
remaster. I
yeah,
think it's just
that,
a collections. I don't think it's remastered too much, but
yeah.
I'm hotly anticipating for the announcement of 5, but I'm pretty sure the reason why it's taken so long is because DMC 1 or DMC Devil May Cry got such a bad reception. And it's the same thing with stuff like Capcom Cross Tekken. Like the reason why we haven't gotten the Bandai Namco's version of it is because there's still stink around that series. Because that was the deal that Capcom and Tekken kind of, or Capcom and Bandai Namco kind of agreed in it on is we'll have our version of the crossover where it's a 2D fighter, and you guys are going to have your version where it's going to be a 3D fighter. But for some
Mm-hmm.
reason, Bandai Namco has never. It sounds like it's in production. They've mentioned that it's in production. It's just not coming out anytime soon. So I don't know when and if it's going to release. Is Akuma being in Tekken 7 supposed to be that equivalent? I don't know. Some people think that that might be the end of it, but
Mm-hmm. It'd be
you know,
interesting to like talk to a developer once, and like one of the developers in the last 3 years that released games that were in development for so long, like Final Fantasy 15
yeah.
or The Last Guardian, and see like when do you guys, when you're approaching that point where you're just like, okay, we've been in development now for 8 years. How do you feel when you're like, okay, we're about to release this game? You know what I mean? There's got to be a lot of anxiety in that.
It must be such a nightmare for them because there's so much anticipation built up. I can't imagine what it's going to be like for the people making Kingdom Hearts 3
Oh,
because people were anticipating 15, but I don't think to the same level that people have been anticipating 3. Because like
yeah.
I played Kingdom Hearts 1 when I was a kid back in 2001, 2002, and I've been waiting for that game for the last like 10 years. Like, when's 3? Okay, cool. Birth by Sleep. That's a really fun game. When's 3? Okay, Dream Drop Distance 3D. Funny. When's 3? Like, when are you giving me 3? And
Yeah.
all those games are important because it builds on the story. So I'm not going to say they're like unimportant. And that's kind of why Kingdom Hearts is kind of a mess story wise because it's spread across like 5 different consoles.
Mm-hmm.
But like so many people are anticipating that game and seeing the reaction that people had for the most recent trailers where there's people like crying like sobbing that it's like we're finally getting it like 2018 is the year we're getting it.
I'm gonna laugh when that's delayed.
I there's an ongoing meme where it's like, oh, it's never been delayed, it's not going to be delayed, and I was like, I don't know, considering how many times they delayed 15, I don't have a lot of faith in Square Enix. I
I got a
hope that we're gonna get in November. I pray to God we will, but I don't trust Square Enix at this point.
Oh, you're not kidding. I will be shocked if we see that game in 2018.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
that'll be a surprise. But if it does come out in 2018 and it's fine, like no problems, I will be overjoyed. But the pessimist in me says it's probably gonna get pushed to early 2019.
I think that'd be a better sale for it too. Because like what I'm thinking is like, okay, we know that's going to be a Sony. It's going to be pushed very heavily on the Sony platform.
Yeah, yeah,
And if you look at Sony's lineup this year alone, we are definitely getting Spider-Man.
yeah,
Spider-Man is coming out in 2018. They're too confident for it not to.
yeah.
God of War has already been confirmed. Detroit Become Human, I bet we get a release date in the next couple months.
Yeah,
And
it was supposed to be quarter 1, but it doesn't seem like they've pulled the trigger on a release date. So I'm assuming probably late quarter 2 if it does come out
I think that's going to be a
at
summer
some point.
game. I think
It's gonna be what?
I think that's going to be Sony's summer game. Like it's going to be June,
Yeah,
July-ish.
yeah. That'll
I
be like
think
a slot. That'll be a slot filler because I don't even think Sony has confidence in that game anymore.
Well, I think they do, but I think it's you gotta look at Heavy Rain and what was the last one? Beyond Two Souls.
Beyond Two Souls.
And let's be honest, like those aren't exactly like PlayStation sellers. They're for the people who played them and enjoy them. People are
Yeah.
like, you have to play Heavy Rain. I haven't heard anybody come out and be like, Beyond Two Souls is the shit, man. You
No,
know?
that's a very anomalous to hear that,
Yeah,
and that's
but
why I think a lot of people don't have faith in Detroit coming out and doing gangbusters.
looks fantastic.
It looks great. Like that's the one
Yeah.
thing that studio's always done well at is man, they're pretty good at facial animations and making good looking character models. Stories aren't exactly the strongest points of their like games.
But I bet that's what it's either going to be Detroit Become Human, Days Gone, or Spider-Man's going to be the summer game.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
for sure.
And I think like if anyone's going to be your fall game, it's going to be Spider-Man.
Yeah,
But at the same point in time, I think Sony's is kind of looking at Red Dead Redemption 2 and being like, oh, that game will eat our lunch if we
yeah,
put Spider-Man there. So I think if they're really on a warpath to get all three of those games out this year, they're gonna send Days Gone out to die.
yeah.
I think that'd be the one that's the one they're gonna be like, okay, there it
But
goes.
I still think that there is viability in Kingdom Hearts 3 coming out in November. Like I think that is a strong selling point for them because it's the Christmas time and that's when 15 came out and 15 did pretty good sales wise. I think it was early December when that game came out.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
3 has such like I don't think anything's going to compete with 3 because everybody that wants that game is going to eat that up. Like it is like going to be devoured and then what's going to be left is for the general population that wants to pick it up after hearing good reception.
okay, but let's think about it this way, okay? Like if we look at the fall lineup, we're definitely getting an Ubisoft game.
Yeah.
Ubisoft has not missed a fall lineup yet.
No.
Okay. There's the Red Dead Redemption 2, which is going to be a huge game.
Yeah.
You know, that game is going to sell amazingly. Then you got your Battlefield or / Battlefront or your Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And then Sony and then Xbox. And I'm going to throw in the new Tomb Raider game too cuz it would make sense, next month is the Tomb Raider movie. You're going to announce your Tomb Raider game.
Yeah, we're finally going to get confirmation on I think it's Shadow of Tomb Raider
Yeah.
or something like that.
And then that would launch in the fall. So then, like, here's this. And then if Spider-Man or Days Gone, and then Xbox, I would be willing to bet that we're going to get, what would it be? State of Decay 2 was supposed to come out earlier this year, but I wonder if they're not going to just push it till the fall so they have something, which would suck because I want State of Decay 2 and give me an excuse to get an Xbox again.
Yeah.
Because mine died. But
Someone needs it.
Yeah, someone needs it. But I think we're gonna, and Xbox is definitely gonna push back. What is it? Or in the Blind Forest, Willow or the Wisps or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Whispering Willow. I think that's gonna be that late summer game. You can't put that out in fall. That's just
But that's
suicide.
also an indie game, so I don't know how much attention they give that to, like, in terms of like
Okay, no, it's not an indie game. Moon
that's
Studios is
full
owned by
that's
Microsoft.
but
It's
that's
no
like a
longer.
no, but
You
it's
can't
it's
be.
not like it's not like a full price 60 game that's getting a like a box in like GameStop.
Oh, I bet this one gets a box. If Ori and the
Really?
Blind Forest got a box, this one's getting a box.
Oh, it did. Okay, I always saw Ori and the Blind Forest like $30 on digital, so it's like
Yeah.
I just thought it's like, oh, this is like a digital only type of title.
As much as I love Ori and the Blind Forest, I hate when people are like, "It's an indie title." I'm like, "No, it's not. You
Yeah.
can't. You
I,
can't
I
be
was I was
owned."
I was misusing the like I just referred to it as indie in terms of like it's
Yeah.
it's a digital only $30 type of game, not like a AAA. Like I just used indie as in terms of like the antithesis to the AAA.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of something we need eventually. We need a title for those kind of in between middle
Second
ground
party.
type games. Second party, yeah, I guess. Yeah,
Kind of
just something
like
that doesn't have
how.
like a huge budget, but also isn't like made by five people. Like something that's kind of just middle
Yeah.
tier game release.
But
But
like that, getting back to where we were though, the fall is gonna be just swamped with
yeah,
games, especially like we like. There's a little bit of people being too silent right now, you
yeah.
know, and so E3 is gonna be packed,
I do
and
hope so because it feels weird, eerily silent in terms of what's coming out in 2018 in terms of like factual release dates and confirmations.
yeah,
And man, 2018 is going to have such a hard time following up how big 2017 was, and that's why I feel it feels so quiet. Is like, man, like 2017 had so many huge hits
hmm
that you're almost kind of curious, like, what are these companies going to bring out next? Because none of them pulled out all of their guns. They
yeah,
always keep something in the back pocket for later.
especially Nintendo. Nintendo's
Yeah.
gonna be so interesting to
Yeah,
watch this
Nintendo's
year.
very good at keeping their cards close to the chest in terms of what they're doing, what the hell they're doing. And then
Yeah,
so sometimes they'll put out the stuff that's just kind of almost like a laugh where it's like, oh, here's the Labo stuff or here's the new Amiibos. But it's like, what's their next? What like when are we going to hear more about Prime,
yeah,
Metroid Prime 4? Like that's
that's
the next
E3.
big
That's gonna
title
be
that I want
E3.
to see them talk about. But
I want to know.
if we got another April 2017 or like quarter 1 2017, I'd be super excited because
Yeah,
that was such a huge like here's Nier
Persona
Automata,
5,
Persona
Nier,
5, Horizon Zero
Horizon.
Dawn, Legend of Zelda, Neo came out. Neo, holy shit, that game got swept under the rug
Yeah,
with everything else around, even though it was a good game. For Honor, a bunch of other games. It literally felt like there was too much. Like that was the most overwhelming time to be someone that was into games, especially like for games journalists, because it was like, here's all these games that are huge. Like all
yeah,
of these games are like 50-hour games at least. Have fun.
yeah. But what I'm saying is like, look at this. Like I'm looking at the fall, and fall's definitely gonna be a big packed fall this year, especially for like indie games. I think we're gonna get some. I'm curious to see where the indies are because like we had some big indies this last year, like Hollow Knight. Holy crap,
Yeah.
I love Hollow Knight. But like this fall is just you know looking funny, and with Kingdom Hearts in there, I don't think if I was Square, I would not want to release Kingdom Hearts in the fall. If I would, I'd try to get
Uh,
it out in the summer. I would not put it out in the fall because it'd die. I'm telling you this right now, it would die, especially going
no,
up
I feel
against
there's such a strong player base with Kingdom Hearts 3 that there's no way that that game
really.
wouldn't do gangbusters. I feel personally that late late 2018 would be the strongest time to release, and that's kind of basically what the time they've set on is in terms of like we've been
Yeah,
hearing rumors for the last like 2 months that it's probably going to be 28 November 2018, which I think is probably the best time for that game because again, Christmas time, that's when everybody's going to get time off school, and
I
everybody that cares about that game is in their mid to late 20s.
I
Probably
could
some a little
see
bit older,
it.
probably some a little bit later, but I feel a lot of people are like in our age range of university students that played Kingdom Hearts when they were a kid because they were like, oh, this Final Fantasy game that has Disney characters. Oh, that sounds cool. And then they played through it and they loved it, and it was like a big nostalgia trip. So, and all the reaction videos I've seen of 3 are people that are about my age that are like sobbing seeing Sora and
That's too
Goofy
much
and
for
Donald
me.
again.
That's too much for me. You're crying over that. That's too much.
I think it's just a lot of people are just really emotional because it's something they've been like holding on to so long. That's the thing that I find fascinating, and I wanted to do a video on it. Is like, why does Kingdom Hearts resonate so strongly for people?
I
Because
think
that's a
that's
game
just
for how
nostalgia.
it's so
Gone.
such a goofy game, like no pun intended. Um, but people just adore that series, just adore the hell out of it. And I think part of it's nostalgia, but I
Hmm.
think it ties back to loops back around to something we were talking about before, where it's really passionate. It's very like
Yeah.
it's very sincere. I guess passionate's not right the word. It's very sincere. It's never trying to be anything it's not. It's not trying to take itself too seriously. It's not trying to chase trends. It's just like, hey, this is our thing, have fun. And I think
Yeah.
that's what grabs a lot of people's attention with that series and even stuff with Nintendo. Nintendo's been really good at that kind of thing where it's just pure, unadulterated fun, no judgment. Like, if you want to have this goofy story about a character jumping between Disney worlds, like, have at it. And I think that's what just
Yeah.
a lot of people just really grasp onto.
Well, there is a game that we are forgetting about though.
What's that?
Excuse me. Final Fantasy VII remake.
That's the game I think Square Enix is going to save till next year. Because if they're planning to release Kingdom Hearts 3 this year, they're not going to be releasing remake at the same time.
I think we're gonna see it at E3 this year. It's been too long. We
We're
got to
gonna
see
see it.
something
We're
from
gonna see it, but I think they're gonna say it's gonna be. We're gonna get the
in
announcement that it'll
development.
be 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that game's been in development for a while, but it's also a really large game. So
Well, like what I'm curious about is now, because like before it was that it was being developed by an outside studio, but with like Square Enix people being in the producer roles and stuff, and then
yeah,
there were talks that it was going to be a three-person game, three different games, and like an episodic game, and then now the last piece of news we got from it is they're bringing the development into in-house for it, and I'm like, okay,
yeah. It
you
sounds
know.
like it was been a development nightmare at the other studios, is what I've been kind of sensing out from interviews and people talking about it, which
Mhm.
doesn't give me a lot of hope. But I also don't blame them because that's a game that's like I don't feel like I'm not jealous for the people that have to make that game because that's no matter what, people are going to be upset about that game. Like nobody's going to play that game and be like, "This is perfect representation."
Of
They're going
what
to
I
do something
saw in
that
my mind when I first played it.
exactly. It's like that's not what Tifa wears. She has this type of shirt, and
Yeah.
it'll be a lot of that kind of nonsense. Uh, and also Square Enix, for any complaints you might have, they're very like attached to their properties. Like they're very careful about what they do. Like
Yeah.
they're not haphazardly using their properties. So if something is not going right, they're going to take it back and go, okay, no. Like, what can we do to fix this? Like, even 15, I have to give them credit. And I almost wanted to talk about this in a video. That game, they've been slowly improving over the last year, even though it's not like worth their time because everybody that's bought it already bought it. But they're still like plugging away, making little improvements here and there, adding systems in because it's not even just patches. It's literally they're adding in new systems, which isn't
Yeah.
easy.
I bought the season pass about 3 months ago, and I started playing through it again. It's almost
A
unrecognizable
different game.
game. Yeah, it's ridiculous how much they put into that.
Yeah, because I have a YouTube friend, Codex Entry, that I highly recommend, and he did a video that talked about the question of like when do you review a game? Like when is a game like finished at this point? Because we're
Hmm.
no longer getting N64 cartridges that it's like this is the complete product. Have a
Yeah, you're
blast. It's
not
like
getting any more.
yeah, we're not getting any more of that. It's like now it's like you have Final Fantasy 15, which is like almost a different game. Same thing for Diablo 3 like
Hmm.
the Diablo 3 you play now was completely different from what the reviewers played, you know, what was it,
Or
5 years
World of
ago?
Warcraft.
Or World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft's constantly getting updates and same for like Destiny, like a lot of these big MMOs. So it's like when do you fairly critique something at that point. Because the review you're gonna see on Wikipedia and on Google when you type in like Final Fantasy 15 is all gonna be the day one release uh numbers and not the current like feelings about the game. So there's that
Yeah.
like ongoing question of like, is this finished? Like
Another game like that is No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky, yeah, No Man's Sky like went through a lot of developments, and I've heard like, oh, it's actually a pretty good game now. It's like, yeah, it's too bad they missed their chance.
Yeah,
Like,
they fumbled that hard.
yeah, like it kind of felt like Hello Games like basically got their money and then got it at a dodge as soon as they like got their paycheck and were out of there. Because
Yeah.
I love that saga. That saga was amazing of hearing like that developer like go through all that stuff, and then basically it came out, it was a disaster, and then it was like, when's the next patch? And then it was like Hello Games is like empty. It was like they made off with their money and
Crickets.
moved on to the next town to try again.
Yeah.
But also that was Sony's fault. I actually don't even feel that was Hello Games' fault. It was Sony's
It it's a fault
marketing.
on both parts. I think it's Hello Games for not like tampering the expectations till the day before,
Yeah.
and then it's Sony's fault for bringing this up on the E3 stage and being like, "Look at all this."
Yeah, look at this
Totally gonna
big
work
hype
that way.
thing. Like, oh my God, so special. And then it was like I could almost see I can't remember the guy's name. It's not Sean Layden, it's Sean something, but I just saw the head
Uh,
developer just like pulling his like necktie, being like,
yeah.
this isn't what we were promising. This is getting a
Well,
little bit too complicated.
he walked out on stage and he never like in his defense he never did say that this is what it is, you know what I mean? He didn't actually say that, but he wasn't like, no, that's not in the game right now, you
Yeah.
know? He just like, oh well, maybe. And I'm just like, you can't do that.
There was a lot of vagueness. I remember looking at interviews in the past to like do a thing on him, and it was like, oh my God, this guy, like you can see he's dancing around the topic so hard because he just wants to avoid giving concrete ideas about what the game is.
Yeah, it'd be
Because
cool to
right
be.
now it's everything for everybody. Like it's
Yeah,
like space
it'd be
Skyrim, and if you can do all this stuff, and then it was like not really, and kind of you'd see him kind of like shifting around in his seat as they're asking him questions.
it'd be cool to see the like be a fly on the wall during that, during the meetings with Sony and Hello Games at that point, you know?
Yeah,
Because that, you know, there has to be more to that story, because either Sony was like, you can't say this, you can't say that this isn't in it, or whatever. There has to be more to that story.
yeah. Because that's a really always like the unique thing about press conferences when it comes to games is because you can tell there's like the publisher, the developer, and then the person that's actually going to be on stage. And it's like, how many filters are they working around? How many filters do they have to deal with? And it makes me think of the Game Awards. What's the name? The guy who, uh,
Jeff Keighley.
no, not Jeff Keighley, the guy that said the fuck the Oscars guy.
Oh, I
I
have
can't
no
remember his
idea. I
name.
can't remember him.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But
What did he make?
he made Brothers. He made Brothers Two
Okay.
Tales, but I can't remember what the current game is. His current game is
Oh, A Way
it's
Out.
Way Out. Thank you. The developer is making Way Out. That's why people I think love that guy so much is because it was so unfiltered, just off the cusp. Just this is what I feel about this, and you don't see that enough at like press conferences. Like their press conferences are all about like how do we market this? How do we present this in the most like HR possible way? Like I'm in university for communications, which is a lot of HR talk. And anytime I watch those press conferences, I'm always taking note of like how they talk to the audience, what type of language are they using. And that guy was just full on, just unfiltered. Here's my opinions on these things. And it was
Well,
like, he's gonna get fired. He's probably gonna he's if he's not gonna get fired, he's definitely gonna get a real stern talking to from EA because EA does not want to talk about the loot box problem or the controversies they're dealing with. And he addressed it in a very unprofessional way on live television or on live YouTube.
well,
And EA did not want that.
I think EA is kind of like, let's try to avoid any loot box situations in the next
Yeah,
year.
exactly. But they don't want to talk about it if it's not on their terms of like addressing it. Like even the EA controversy was like really interesting to watch because how they were trying to not address it, or like they wanted to address it in a very business way, and that's what
But
drove a lot of gamers crazy is because they wanted the real answers.
but look how much they fumbled that. I mean,
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
can't you can't make that up. Here we are, you guys. Someone, okay, let's just go through the chain here, okay? They made the game. They were implementing the microtransactions and loot boxes, and someone thought it was a great idea to make Darth Vader worth what was it, like 1,000 hours of gameplay or two
I
hundred
think it was
dollars?
like I think people it was incorrectly calculated at 40, but it was
Oh,
actually
okay,
closer to 10. But even then, it was still kind of unreasonable to have a character that was unlocked in the previous games
okay.
locked away in the current one.
But okay, 10 hours. You're asking for 10 hours for a full. Okay, I go buy this game for $60. 10 hours later, I can now unlock Darth Vader, just the base model.
Yeah.
Okay, not to mention there's a credits cap. So like all this was purposely designed so
Yeah.
that it would force you to want to buy the microtransactions. So eventually, you just break in and be like, fuck it, we give them the money.
Yeah, it was designed around getting more purchases, and
Yeah.
like
Okay.
no matter how you slice it, that was what the design was.
Yeah, and then you go, and then when everybody's like, oh, when everybody's freaking out about it, EA is like, okay, we now halved the price. So, okay, now it's gonna be 5 hours. Okay, and once again, still kind of has that predatory nature of making you want to buy a microtransaction. And then EA is like, okay, fine, they're out of the game.
Well,
And
you missed a step though. They
oh what?
halved the cost of getting the heroes, but then they also
Yeah,
halved the cost of some of the earnings you could get.
yeah. Sorry,
Because the campaign
sorry.
was designed the campaign was designed around you earning enough credits to get the purchase the character from the campaign for the like multiplayer. And then where people were like, hey, I originally earned this much doing the campaign, why is it half now? And they're like, well, the campaign's only for this character, it's not really meant for extra earnings.
So
And it was
basically,
like,
nothing changed.
yeah, and it's like so nothing really changed. It was a very like surface level change on their part.
Yeah.
I don't know how much they changed the cost earnings of matches and all that stuff, but I imagine it was very similarly tinkered around with.
Hmm.
So it was very surface level apology. And again, with the whole like just public relations dealing with it, it's like that must have been a nightmare for them trying to figure out the best way to address this problem without taking fault. Because no company wants to take fault. No company wants to uh, address that they did something wrong. A recent one that I was kind of irked by, but I also was like, whatever, I'm probably not going to get the game. Was Guilty Gear or no Blaze Blue cross battle.
Okay.
Um, so it's the arc system works like Persona Arena, Blaze Blue, Guilty Gear, and Ruby crossover game fighting game,
Hmm.
and 20 characters in the main roster, and then they announced 20 DLC characters. And a lot of people are like, why do I have to pay this much to like that's DL how do you have so many characters in DLC? And it's like the it's a lot about semantics, and I had this argument with people where it's like I feel like the only problem isn't so much the business ethics, it's how they presented it to the audience, because
Hmm.
Street Fighter 5 currently has probably more DLC characters than their main roster was. Like they
Yeah.
six each, 18 characters that are DLC at this point. That's probably just as much as there was in the main roster at the launch of the game. I don't think anybody has real problems with that because it was slowly piecemealed out over
Yeah.
2 years, give or take. Whereas you're not being told at face value, this is half, you're getting the other half later in DLC. And
Well.
the big
Oh,
issue for me was that they halved the main cast of Ruby. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the show.
no.
The main cast is four characters, Ruby, Weiss, Blake, and Yang, and only the first two were going to be in the base game, and then the other two were going to be a DLC. And it was like that's the only comparison I can think of is if you had Raphael and Michelangelo in a fighting game, but you didn't have the other two, or the other
Leonardo
two
and
were DLC.
Donatello.
Yeah, it would feel like you're cutting out half the like main roster. So
Yeah.
eventually, the Arc System Works came and said, okay, those two characters are going to be DLC, but they'll be free.
Okay.
They backtrack because they realized how much people were giving them shit for it.
But like, how much of the EA problem, like, okay, like, I feel like a lot of the EA's problem was they did that, and then not what was it like within 2 weeks of that they came out and was like, okay, yeah, we canceled the new one one player Star Wars game because we wanted a more what was it rounded experience or something
They
like
wanted
that,
a more
player focused.
player
Like you,
focused experience, which is basically that they want more multiplayer type stuff. They didn't feel single player. I can't remember the language they used, but it was like, looking at current trends,
it was
single player
basically
experiences aren't what's selling.
it was basically we couldn't have multiplayer and microtransactions and DLC in this thing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's kind of what a lot of people took from that.
it was basically what it was, and
Which
then it's
is
just like yeah.
which is
So
really
like
disappointing because I just to really address a point real quickly because
yeah,
I think it's worth it. Um, if anybody does check out that book, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, the last chapter alone is a selling point because it goes into the history of Star Wars 313.
mm-hmm,
Given it ends when it goes to EA, but then at that point you kind of know where that ends. But it literally starts with like this game started at LucasArts and they were making it and they had this whole plan figured out around it. It's going to be kind of like uh, Shadows of the Empire, where you had like a Dash Rendar type of character that they made for the story.
mm-hmm,
Lucas came in and he was like, "Hey, make it a Boba Fett," and then they had to design like a demo they'd already finished around Boba Fett, which was a fucking nightmare because they had to have it finished for E3. So it was this
mm-hmm.
constant evolving nightmare, and then they got sold to LucasArts, EA, and it was this
Yeah,
whole thing. And it's honestly that chapter is like the most heart wrenching thing, knowing how much these people put in 6 years of their lives to basically see it get canceled 3 times.
yeah, and then
Like,
you also gotta, but like within a month, you guys did that, and then you released it, and it still made money. Let's be honest, like they released sales figures. What was it, 2 weeks ago? It
yeah,
still made its money back, but
not enough to them.
yeah, not enough to them. That's another thing. You should never be like, okay, we made our money back, but it wasn't enough, so we're putting microtransactions back
Yeah,
in, which they did say they were going to put back in.
yeah.
But it's just like, what is your guys' problem there? And like that's why EA has such a bad like reputation because they do crap like that. And then like Visceral, here's this talented first person, this talented single player developer that's focused on making an amazing game. And then you guys are just like, yep, we shut them down and Star Wars is gone. And it's just like, guys, that game would have sold. I don't know why you guys, and that's another thing with the EA. Why are they so eager to support these indie developers with like Fee or however you pronounce it, and
Yeah.
A Way Out, and what was it, Yarny or Wooly or something, whatever, Tangled. Sorry,
Yeah.
Tangled. But we're not going to take a risk on a third person single player game written by Amy Hennig, the woman behind Uncharted.
That's the most disappointing thing is that it's like that you knew that story was going to be at least pretty
Amazing.
good. Yeah, like I'm not gonna give her like the entire thing of like it was gonna be the best thing ever, but it's like with her pedigree, it would have been pretty good. At the very least, it would
Yeah.
have been a pretty good Star Wars story.
Well, apparently it was going to be the young Boba Fett story, like
And that's
taken
because
from 1313.
that was what was forced on them by George Lucas like halfway through
Yeah,
development because it was originally just going to be original character,
yeah.
and then he was like, make it Boba Fett, and I was like, okay, I guess we're making it about Boba Fett now.
But like that's the same problem with EA's has with Xbox.
Yeah,
And you can see this with Sony. Sony is willing to take the risks. With they kept funding The Last Guardian for 10 years. It came out. I have no idea what the sales numbers are.
yeah.
But Sony's just like, okay, yeah, take your risks. Gravity Rush, another one. Love those games. They took the risk. Nintendo takes the risk with Xenoblade behind me. But Microsoft and EA and a lot of these other developers are just like, no, it hit a roadblock. We're done. We're not going to take that big of a risk.
Yeah. To basically make a big circle back around to the original talking point about this, which is gaming on YouTube. And I think that's kind of what's important about people making, you know, talk discussion points about video games on YouTube, is because YouTubers now have a lot more influence
than
on
ever
stuff like
before.
that.
Yeah.
Because the reason EA got in so much shit is not only were people aware of it, but there was people like Jim Sterling making videos about why this is such bad business practices and what's the problem with this. And of course, you have people defending them too, but then that's just developing the discussion so everybody can make an informed discussion. Like, you're not just
Mhm.
getting one journalist's opinion, you're getting a bunch of YouTubers kind of talking about it, people on podcasts, you know, IGN articles, however you want to put your message out there. We're saying this is the stuff we liked. And then there's indie darlings that do super well because people are promoting it, like Shovel Knight. Like, I love Shovel Knight, and I'm super,
Oh
super
yeah.
glad that game did gangbusters and stuff like Pyre and the stuff that Supergiant Games makes. And it's because there's people on YouTube that are like, this game's amazing. Like, what? Like, you guys need to check this out. Doki Doki Literature Club. That was a free game that people just found and were like, check this out. This is a cool game that has all these interesting little
Hmm.
different things they do. And it's
Well,
because
like
there's
Five
passionate
Nights at
people.
Freddy's
Five Nights
was
Five Nights at Freddy's.
would never
Say
have
what you will
been.
about where it went now, but
Yeah.
YouTubers made it popular.
PewDiePie made it popular. Flappy Bird
Yeah.
was another one. PewDiePie. But like, yeah, I mean, it's amazing what we can do with in this community now. And I mean, me and you are kind of smaller. You're bigger than I am, but you know, we're the smaller guys out there.
Yeah.
But it's like, and you know what? Let's end this. Let's end the podcast on this note because when you look into YouTube gaming and just the gaming in general on YouTube, they say it's the hardest to break into,
Yeah.
but it's also like the biggest market.
Oh, 100%. Like, it's it's full of passionate people. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's what, other than gaming being a very popular market just in of itself, it's just full of
Mm-hmm.
people that love this medium and want to talk about it or want to play games and show people cool stuff that they've done. There's people that do trick videos. There's people that do like combo stuff. You have people like Maximilian, dude, that are basically dedicated to making the fighting games more accessible. You have the super
Mm-hmm.
best friends that are about making entertainment, let's plays. Super Bunny Hop that makes uh informative videos about like journalism. Like, he does by definition journalism, like investigating
Okay.
stuff. Jim Sterling does really good opinion pieces. Like, you have all these people that do really unique and interesting stuff. So it is definitely hard to get into, but I think that's why people need to find their own voice, their own way of presenting itself. And
I
if you're lucky enough, people will be drawn to that. Because there's also
Yeah.
luck. Luck is a huge factor to people's success at the same time.
Oh, luck is a huge factor in anything with
Yeah.
YouTube and entertainment.
But yeah,
But
there's still people that are coming up. Sorry to cut you off, but there's still people that are rising very quickly because they found their audience. Like, again, Mr. Clemps is someone that I would highly recommend. He's very funny YouTuber that's very entertaining to watch because he just has a very fun uh way to his videos. Same thing for Super Butter Buns and Shamey. Like, they all have very unique styles to effectively doing a very similar type of video where it's about entertainment first and information second.
mhm.
And they all kind of came up over the last like year. All of them kind of blew up from like, lower 10,000s to like, I think Shamey and Super Butter Buns are both past 200K now.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
And they just found their audience that people wanted, loved their style of videos, and now they're making a bunch of money on Patreon.
Yeah, I'm happy for them all. Like I just love the fact that you can go in now, and it's just like gaming and in YouTube gaming. Now you can, if you're in the mood for whatever you're in the mood for, you can watch it or you can
Yeah.
play it, and
So
that's the best part.
yeah. So my last advice for anybody that's listening, for like any advice, would be never be deterred just because there's other people doing something similar. Like, never let people tell you that, oh, it's too hard to break into gaming. Like, that's impossible. You're never gonna get found. It's like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah,
And if you don't take that opportunity to even just make an attempt, like, just try. Like like if you don't succeed, like, you know, you lost a few hours of editing and writing. Like that's the worst that could happen. But
But I think the other thing is it just practice. Like even
and
though we
practice.
both, yeah, me and you, we both cringe at our older videos.
Yeah.
I look at them like, you know what? That's me, finding this edge that I'm gonna have.
And
I'm just,
you can find that in every YouTuber. I would be shocked to find any YouTuber that says they like their old stuff. Like I
yeah.
know uh I've heard Clems talk about he cringes at all of his old stuff. I think Butterbuns has said the same thing. Nobody feels confident about their first video. And I feel a lot of people take it down because they don't like it or it doesn't represent their current stuff.
I'm leaving it up. My first video was an unboxing of Xenogears or Xenoblade Chronicles X in the
Yeah.
background there. That's why it's in the background too, because it's just nostalgic. But I'm like, that's my first video. It was horrible, really
But staying up
bad.
there for prosperity.
It's staying up there because it shows. Like this is how far I've come.
Yeah.
Anyways, any final? You want to say anything else? You want to plug your channel?
Uh no, I think if you're good with that, I think that was a pretty good talk.
We
Hopefully that rambling in the middle wasn't too much, but
we talked for
yeah.
an hour and about 20 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Most of that was for the games industry, but that it's just fun to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun to shoot the shit about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, guys, subscribe to Foxcade's channel or Fox's channel.
Yeah.
If you like what I do here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well. Leave a comment and tell me what you think about it, whatever. Once again, I'm kind of exhausted. My mind's like blown. I'll see you guys here again next time. As always, I thank you so much for watching. Bye. You don't want to say bye? Why does no one ever want to say bye at the end at least?
I thought you wrapped it up.